Okay, part 2 of our epic tale of, I don't know, intrigue. Anyway, I told you last time that the Pratt, wanted to go shooting on migraine, and we bummed him out. Anyway, in the days after, things started to happen. He put on his Facebook post, because I was still talking to him then, he put on his Facebook that he apologised to the club members. That's the gang that had been invited out shooting on the Saturday that Phil bombed out. He apologised to them for not being able to go shooting. And then he said, I don't know why. The pigeons were all there. Nobody was shooting on the Saturday morning. The pigeons were all eating the crop. I shot a few pigeons. Yeah, I shot 4 in 4 hours. There was hardly a bird flying around. It was muggy and wet. They don't want to fly in that. They tend to sit up and roost. They tend to come down, eat a little bit, and then go back up and sit up in the trees. But, you know, they don't tend to fly around in that horrible misty rain. That's why I went home. But oh, the farmers' crops all being eaten, they should have allowed the boys to go down. We're professional pigeon shooters. Yeah, right. He asked me to do a video with him, and I went out pigeon shooting with him, and he was in the corner shooting. Now, when you're pigeon shooting, the last thing you do is try and put a hide in a corner. It's one of the first lessons you learn. You put it on the hedge, try and get back into the hedge as much as you can, and then do your camo in front of you, so you're comfortable. You've got room for the dog and all the rest of it. Anyway, I'm set up 100 yards from him, I suppose. And I got the camera on him, because I'm supposed to be filming him shooting. And I got a few decoys out just in case they come in. Anyway, the pigeons were coming around to come into my decoys, because they don't like going into a corner. And then he was shooting them, and then they were flying off. Yeah, he did shoot a few pigeons, I'm going to admit that. But I'm sat there watching him, and it got quiet. And he can't sit still. One of the things you've got to do when you're in a pigeon hide is keep still. If you move, it buggers up the camouflage. You know, I was in the Army Cadets. That's one of the things they taught us. Although you've got the camouflage on and everything, if you don't want to be seen, you don't move. You freeze. Well, the same's true in a pigeon hide. You just don't move. You just relax. Take it easy. And then all of a sudden, pigeon comes in and you go boom. And I'm filming him. And I'm there for what? About 2 hours? And I got about 3/4 of an hour of film. Anyway, I go home and I look at the rushes. And I go through them. Now, I'm trying to find a reasonably good little bit of film that I can use. His pigeon shooting, his decoy, his hide etiquette, it's terrible. He moves around all over the place. At one stage, you've got a pair of binoculars out to try and see the pigeons. And it was so bad I couldn't use it. Anyway, a couple of days later, he came into the workshop and said, Have you done the video? I said, no. Oh, why? I said, well, I said, Your decoying's terrible. I said, I'm going to have to teach you to decoy before I do any filming again. It makes you look a total idiot. I'm a professional pigeon shooter. I know what I'm doing. I go shooting every week. I said, well, yeah, you might do. But I've been shooting pigeons for 40 years by then. I sort of picked up a few things on the way. I've had some real good professionals that I've been out with pigeon shooting. At one stage, when we used to go over to Wales, the guy was on the Ag and Fish pest control scheme, and we were shooting pigeons and getting 50 pence a pigeon. He was then selling them to the gamekeeper and getting 50 pence a pigeon. This was in the 80s, maybe late 70s, early 80s. You know, which was good money in those days. And he used to pay me for shooting the number of pigeons, knowing that he could take the pigeons and sell them to the gamekeeper. So I'm sort of semi-professional when it comes to that. And I'd go over for a week pigeon shooting in Wales, and I'd average 100 birds a day over the week. Unbelievable. Oh yeah, I might have 20 or 30 one day, but I'll have 200, 250 the next day on my own. I'd be dumped in a couple of fields and said, get on with it. And he'd go off up a farm the other side of the village, about, I don't know, mile and a half away, and set up there. We had another guy behind me. He would set up another half a mile down the road down there, and we kept the pigeons moving all day. We had a whale of a time. When it comes to pigeon shooting, I know what I'm doing. This guy hasn't got a clue. Says it's all mouth. You know, I know what I'm doing. I'm the professional at it. Crap. So I couldn't use the video. I did 3 minutes of how not to decoy pigeons, and he's just moving around in the hive, and I put that on YouTube. Didn't name him. I did it on widescreen, far enough away. I didn't zoom in on him, but he couldn't be recognised, so that stays there. So if you will, how not to shoot pigeons, that's on my Country Sports TV channel. Anyway, so I put a comment. Now, let's get back to how I fell out with him. He puts the comment, which I was telling you about, on his Facebook page, apologising, said the lads should have gone out shooting, they're the professionals, there's pigeons all eating the crops and everything else. I put a simple comment on there. I shot the ground for 4 hours on Saturday morning, and it was raining and drizzling and there was no pigeons around, so I went home and I just left it there. He never spoke to me from that day to this. Never had any dealings with him. And I thought, oh, wonderful, brilliant. But we've had a few tanglements. 2010 and 12, he was shooting on another farm I shoot on. And the farmer rings me and said, we're getting rid of the Pratt. Bring your camera, we want to film it. I was in Gloucester at the time and couldn't get there. Yeah, I come back home, go into the farmhouse, have a cup of tea, and got a whole lot of story. What he'd done, he's phoned the guy that owns the ground, the farmer that I know, phoned him and told him that the guy that rents the ground had given permission to shoot. And he told the guy that rents the ground that the farmer, the landowner, had given him permission to shoot. The only trouble is they went to school together. They're on speed dial with each other. Although the land is rented out and it's gone through an agent, these two are best of mates. They drink down the pub together. So my farmer rings the tenant farmer up and said, "What's going on?" He said, "Well, what did you give him permission to shoot on my ground for?" He said, "I didn't give him permission." Well, he said, "You did. You gave him permission." "No, I didn't." So the prat and his mates get thrown off. The farmer who owns the ground reckons that he's charging these guys to go pigeon shooting. And they get thrown off. Now the mad thing is, on his Facebook page, because I haven't quite fallen out with him that much by this time, right? He apologises for being thrown off, and that the farmer didn't understand what was going on. He had permission to be there, and a load of crap, right? I then tell the story on Facebook. And I explained that the guy was shooting without permission, and to make sure that shooters should make... It was on my Country Sports TV channel. It was actually taken down, but not by me. I think he must have complained or something, because Facebook took it down. And I explained, I never named him. Just said the guy went shooting without permission on the ground and got thrown off. And I put it there. Yeah. I get a visit from Plod. I didn't. These two guys come in the workshop. They got no numbers on. They're in police uniforms, but they've taken their numbers off. I thought that was odd. It's the first thing I thought was odd. Anyway, he starts having a go at me about harassment. "We're going to arrest you for harassment." "What, me? What's all this over?" He said, "Your Facebook post." I said, "Well, I didn't name the guy. How does he know it was about him?" Anyway, he got a copy of my Facebook post and read it, saw that he wasn't named, put it back in the folder and walked out the door. I was going to be arrested for harassment when he was illegally shooting. That was the first coppers that was his mates, that he'd set his mates up to harass me. And this is how it goes. Then he's shooting in the woods above the golf course in Tickenham. And the guy that owns the wood at the top of the golf course is anti-shooting. We've had words in the past. But we get on and we chat. Anyway, the prat and his mates are shooting, roost shooting, in the end of February, beginning of March, in the wood. And I'm thinking, well, perhaps he's given them permission to shoot. So anyway, I see him in the village, and I said, "Hello." I said, I see you've given the prat permission to shoot in yours. "Nobody shoots in my wood. You know that, Ian. It's a conservation area." And I said, "Well, that's what I thought. That's why I've never shot it. You've never given me permission to be there, and I've never done it. I've always shot in the fields below. I do the rabbit control out there on the golf course." He said, "Next time they're there, you let me know." Anyway, next time, it's like the reenactment of the OK Corral. I got my binoculars out and I'm looking for them. I'm about half a mile away, straight on the hill, straight underneath the hill. And I see this pigeon come up along the wood line. And it's bang, 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 bang. And the pigeon goes on flying up. And it sounds like the reenactment of the OK Corral. Bang, 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 bang. So I ring the guy, the guy that owns the wood up. "Hello." Well, he said, "They're shooting down the bottom." He said, "Hang on a minute." He goes and he has a look, come back. "I can't hear them. Can you come round and say hello?" I said, "Oh, well, all right." So up we go. Phil's with me. Phil actually comes with me, which was a good thing, so now I got a witness. We whip round the roads, which is about a mile and a half now to get to the half a mile where he lives straight as the crow flies. We've got to drive all the way around to get to his house, and we're in the garden, and you can't hear a thing, and they're shooting down the bottom. We later found out that it's a shadow, acoustic shadow, and if you're here and you've got a hill and the sound's down here, the sound is going up and bypasses you and you can't hear it. Anyway, he said, I've just come out of hospital, no way can I walk down there, would you go and get rid of him for me? I said, yeah, all right. And I did, and I put that on one of my videos. So if you want to go and see that, it's one of my old videos. I walk down the road, get rid of him, he's gone. I then tell the story around that I caught a poaching with his mates. Once again, they think that he was selling the shooting, and he's shooting at somebody else's ground. The blind, it's just unbelievable how he thinks he can get away with it. This time it is definitely his mate. I'm now told that the copper that was investigating it was teaching him in Freemasonry. That's how corrupt all this is. Anyway, the police asked me for a copy of the video because I videoed it all when I went down there. So I gave them a copy of the video. And they came back to me and said, we can't determine where it is. We don't know if he's got permission or not. And I said, well, you know where it is because I told you where it was. And we're now looking at arresting you for conspiracy to harassment. Now, I didn't know at the time that the farmer on the hill was emailing the authorities asking whether this guy has been CRB checked to be with kids. That's a good point. I don't know the answer to that. So he's been firing off emails complaining about the Pratt, and I didn't know anything about it. But they've linked me and him together because they know I've known him since he was born. He's 7 years younger than me. He was 7 when he was born. Or I was 7 when he was born, I should say. I used to babysit for him when I was, 10, 11 years old? I know. I've known him all my life. And now we're mixed up in this conspiracy of harassment, and we had nothing to do with each other on it. Anyway, the police came to see him at 11 o'clock, and they came to me at 11:15. And it was a constable on his own. And he said, we're looking at arresting you for conspiracy of harassment. I said, what? I didn't know at that time that he knew the Pratt and that they were in Freemasons together. I didn't know that at the time. I said, he was illegally shooting, but you're going to arrest me for harassment. The landowner asked me to remove it, and I actually gave him his phone number and his address. I said, you are, there's the landowner's address. He will confirm it. I was working as an agent for the landowner, the guy that owns the wood, and I was asked to remove him, which I did. I have done nothing wrong. I said, what we should have done is called the police and got you lot to remove him and take all their guns away from him. But I didn't want that. I'm a shooting man. I don't want people's guns taken off of people. But now I'm going to be arrested for conspiracy of harassment. You know, that disappeared. And then about a month later, I get a phone call. Can we come and interview you again? I said, yeah, of course you can. And I'm thinking, this is getting old. And then they come in. It's Constable, the guy that's mates with the Pratt, and who's teaching him in Freemasonry, we think, and the sergeant. And they come in, and I tell my story again. Luckily, Phil turns up for his cup of tea. So Phil comes in, and he's sitting in the kitchen, and I tell my story, and Phil says, yeah, that's right, I was there. I was hanging back a little bit, he said, because Ian was filming, and filmed it all, and we got rid of him. So I got my witness. The sergeant took the constable out into the garden. I don't know what was said, but the sergeant came back in. I didn't see the constable again ever. He said, don't worry, Ian, I will sort it out. And they left. Later, a customer comes in the workshop. This is about a month, 2 months later, comes into the workshop. I said, oh, I met a copper knows you. Said he almost lost his job over it. That was this guy that was mates of the Pratt. He got found out. The sergeant found him out. So I don't really know what go on, but reading between the lines, I think they moved him down to Western. So we'll finish this story off later. I've got to give you an update on what happens the third time. Been through it all before, but there's more background information that I've got to tell you.